You know, there's a pretty common misconception out there that PC gaming is easier than console. So I don't know where that notion originated from, but I personally think it's a pretty far cry from justice. I know the majority of the people who will watch this channel will be playing on a console, so before you go straight into the comment section ready to flame the crap out of me, just hear me out. See, as someone who has played both platforms for quite some time, I can honestly tell you that they both have their upsides and downsides. There's always going to be something that one does better than the other, and that's okay, but I think that besides all the ergonomics that PC has going for it, it is still pretty much the more difficult platform in like all sense of the word. Now, so before we really get into it, a bit of background about myself so you guys can be assured that I'm like, I don't know, not lying. I've owned a PS4 for a little over 4 years now. I recently made the switch back to PC, which is what I started on 6 years ago. I now currently game on a desktop that I built for myself back in September. But honestly, you didn't really need to know that to understand why what I'm about to tell you makes a lot of sense. So, you know, enough about myself. Here are 3 reasons why I believe PC gaming is in a completely different league when it comes to console gaming. Reason 1, the player meta is pretty damn difficult. Okay, so let's just get this one straight out of the way. Just because it's easier to aim on PC does not mean it's all sunshine and rainbows. What most people tend to forget is that if it's easier for you to aim on PC, then it's easier for everyone else too. In a difficult lobby, your movements and positioning matter pretty much 3 times as much as they do on console, since on PC, aim is a non-factor essentially. Because if you think about it like this, if everyone's aiming well, then the fact of someone, you know, missing a shot on you isn't really going to come into play since it's so easy to aim. So it's really just going to matter as to where you are and how much of an advantage you have on your opponent. So if you're being shot at on PC, there's like a 99.9% chance of dying. Like, whereas on console, you could, you know, turn on people, or, you know, you could get turned on. Like on PC, though it does happen, it is much rarer, I should say, for this type of, you know, gameplay to happen. Like, you don't really turn on people as much as you do on console. So most of the time people tend to get the PC gamer mindset confused with, let's kill these noobs because it's easier to aim and shred people. But really it's more like, let's see who's stupid enough to peek or who is stupid enough to push too quickly, and then, you know, they pretty much get wrecked out in the open. It's never really because, you know, they're just a worse player. It's because they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay, so with that establishment out of the way, let's get into our second reason, which is a pretty long one, so you guys are going to have to bear with me. Number 2, the skill gap on PC is a pretty weird thing. I think we can all agree on one thing. A top tier PC player will beat a top tier console player 9 out of 10 times, no problem. It isn't because the console player is bad, but simply because the PC player has better control over his character. So this naturally places the skill gap of PC like on a higher playing field than console. Keep in mind that I said higher and not wider or tighter, but all of that alone doesn't mean that PC is automatically harder than console. We're gonna get to that now. What makes it harder than console is the fact that the skill gap is higher and tighter, with the exception of a few outliers which go beyond the skill gap, kind of like how Optic Scump or Ninja seem unkillable whenever you play against them. Anyways, what this type of skill gap means is that the level of competition is both higher and stiffer. Now, before you go back down into the comments saying, "But Innocence, that's not true, I dropped Nuke on PC but no console," let me explain a bit further by saying that everyone is different and you might be good at different things. But to illustrate my point clearly, pretty much anyone could pick up a mouse and keyboard and have a higher chance of throwing me off my streak than if that same person were to pick up a controller, for instance, and try to do the same on console. Everyone has used a mouse and keyboard before, but not a controller. And let's be serious, we all remember our first time trying to use a controller and we had no goddamn clue what was going on or how to do anything besides turn. You know, we were basically sitting ducks. But on PC, everything comes much more naturally, and you can automatically start out on a higher plane than a console noob would. Like, a PC noob has a way higher chance of killing a veteran than a noob on console, and if you played both, you know that these are just facts. Like, you could walk onto a PC match not knowing how to do anything and still be able to kill me, versus if this is your first time playing on a console and you try to kill me, you'll just have a higher chance of doing it. It just makes sense. Okay guys, so I'm here in MS Paint just to kind of show you how a skill gap really works, just in case for, like, you know, for people who don't quite understand how to picture the situation. And sorry if the mic quality dropped because I had to switch to my headset because my actual recording microphone doesn't actually move around too much. But anyway, so here we could draw a line, right? Let's pretend that's straight, and let's say that this right here is the bottom of the skill gap and this right here is the top of the skill gap, right? And let's say that this skill gap is for, let's say, COD or Call of Duty, because that's what we mainly play. Again, sorry for the bad handwriting and mic. But anyway, so yeah, let's say like this is 0 skill
and we're gonna say, and we're gonna, you know, conflate skill with ability as well. So, you know, let's just assume that PC players have more ability, and therefore that directly translates into skill because they're able to do more. So let's say this is 0 skill slash ability, and this is 100 skill slash ability. Okay, so let's say that by default the majority of console players, which we're gonna draw to the right here, fall in between this part of the spectrum. Okay, so this is console players. We're gonna draw an arrow right here, and this is console, right? That's console, right? And let's say just because PC is infinitely easier because of, you know, the easier controls and stuff, that it automatically gets pushed up just a wee bit, so that the top tier players are just a little bit higher, right, than the bottom tier players of the top tier players are higher than the top tier players of consoles. What I meant to say, and we could just draw an arrow over here, and we could say that this right here is PC. Okay, so what you notice here is that since PC is easier, what happens is that the top tier players on PC will be better than the top tier players on console, and right here we could say that top tier console TTC, and right here we could say top tier PC or top TTP. All right, so you could see that here that PC's top tier players are higher than console's top tier players, but the highest console top tier players would still be able to beat usually than the bottom tier PC players. But one thing that you have to notice is that this is just a basic you know, example of how you could imagine the skill gap be for like really any game. Is that, you know, this is how high the skill ceiling is. This right here is what we call a skill ceiling, with what I'm encircling right now, the skill ceiling of of console, which is the absolute highest that you can go. And this right here is like the rock bottom, like the absolute dirt trash that you can go. And this is the skill ceiling for PC, and this is the skill bottom for PC as well. So one thing that you got to notice is that since PC is easier, that it's just going to be placed higher on like the 0 to 100 scale of, you know, skill slash ability. That's just how it is. But the top tier console players, like let's say Optic Scump, would still be able to beat, like, you know, Timmy No Thumbs, if he was Timmy No Thumbs, who just got a PC, even if Optic Scump was still using a controller and Timmy No Thumbs was using a PC. But this, again, like I said, this is just a very quick and, you know, informal visualization. If you want like a whole if you want something that makes a bit more sense and is actually a bit quicker, let me just open up a new document real quick. So all you have to know is that if we redraw that skill gap thing right here, okay, and we could call this 0 to 100, right? It would actually look more something like this. If this would probably be console, right? And remember, this is like not to scale or anything. This is just who knows what 100 scale is. This is just you know, pure example. So let's say if console is actually here, and this is how wide the console skill gap is. This is the wideness of the console skill gap right here. The PC skill gap would actually be kind of like this, is the point I'm trying to make. Now, this is a large exaggeration. You know what I'm saying? That's the wideness or the width of the PC skill gap. That's a large exaggeration. But that's what I mean when I say that the PC skill gap is higher. So it's higher. Like, that's a bad arrow. But it's higher up on the skill range from 0 to 100. And it's also much tighter, see, as you can see right here, than the console one. So console is lower and wider, meaning that you'll have very, very much worse console players than the top tier console players. But my point that I'm trying to make is that even the top tier PC players, which I'm circling right here, still have more of an opportunity to be taken down by the lowest PC players, whereas that doesn't happen as much as console because the skill gap is much wider because of how the controls work and how hard it is to learn to use a controller. But on PC, the skill goes up because of the easiness to use it, and the skill gap becomes tighter because of the easiness to use it. I hope I explained that well. And now back to the video.
Third and final reason. Okay, so this one could be a bit of a reach, but I'm gonna need you guys to stick with me. All right, so it's a little bit anecdotal at heart, but it's pretty easily noticeable if you've played on either platform, or I should say played on both platforms. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is console players are generally younger and make more mistakes, and it's infinitely easier to outsmart a child or someone who's, you know, never had to think without their mother than it is to, you know, outsmart someone who's willing to drop 1K on computer parts and, you know, to build one up from scratch. And you literally almost never run into squeakers on PC and I have yet to run into one since switching back to PC 9 months ago in September. So like, I'm starting to think that the minimum age to play on PC must be like 16 or something, because not only do you need to know what you're doing to, you know, make a valid purchase just to build your own computer, but you need to have the money, and PCs can get expensive as quack. Timmy's mom would rather, you know, spend $250 on a console than the bare minimum $800 it takes to have a decent experience on PC, you know, while cutting no corners on hardware. And that price wasn't even including peripherals like a mouse, keyboard, monitor, etc. So it just doesn't make sense to like a mom who's trying to buy her kids something. Okay, so let's take this all back. What exactly does it mean? Well, the only thing that makes PC easier than console are the controls themselves. You know, how players play and interact is what makes it noticeably harder. And if you disagree, I urge you to go and try PC yourself, and I'm sure you'll notice, you know, what I mean almost immediately. The people are just as good as you on PC, and the skill gap / ceiling are constantly in a weird place. Not to mention that everyone on PC is just older and smarter. Remember that I have about 3 years on console and about 3 years of PC under my belt, so I think I'm qualified to have, you know, a valid opinion. So, but yeah, that's about it. Let me know what you guys thought about the first video on the new channel. If you disagree with anything I said or have some points you want to add, let's duke it out in the comments. Or if you like the video, make sure to give it a like, and if you disliked, a dislike, and subscribe and hit the bell notification button to never miss a future upload on my ramblings, playthroughs, and or other news of interest. Also, if you have any suggestions on what to upload next, please drop them. It would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, thanks for watching. Stay frosty, yeah, and all that jazz.